sort of a better design map, but it's more just a loot pool. Like every POI, you're sort of coming out with loot. You're not really like having to struggle. Whereas like, you know, World's Edge, you have POIs like Geyser, Dome, stuff like that, where you just like get left with nothing.
All right, well, since we're in game now, we should probably start kind of breaking down what's happening. We're not exactly going to commentate per se, but we are going to have a discussion around, you know, maybe what it is like to be playing Apex in a competitive environment, what you should be looking out for, important things to kind of keep an eye on. And one important thing here is that there's going to be a contest over checkpoint straight away on Stormpoint, which is not something you'll often see, but everywhere there's a possibility that there's going to be 2 teams dropping. So what's the thought process behind a hot drop like this one?
I mean, this is just a case of egos getting in the way of competition. These two don't want to give up their POI. They're both actually from the same region, which is kind of surprising. Usually when you see international events, you'll see teams from other regions like fighting each other, versus like this here. You have, you know, Reject and Fennel both fighting each other, both from APAC North. Checkpoint isn't a particularly good contest. It is very easy to stall in this contest because like both, you can just sit on buildings as you're seeing here. These guys are about to sit on the building, not move. The guys across from them are going to do the same thing.
Now I have a question. How do you guys as players decide, obviously picking up grenades, using your util? Are you guys communicating the util that you're using, or are you guys like coordinating when to use the util at the right time?
It's sort of a case of, you know, you want to just make sure that you have like your whole team grouped and you're doing it all like in unison.
Yes. Okay.
If you're doing it separately, it's not great.
All right. Things are progressing nicely, at least for, was it Reject?
Yep.
Did they win that fight or did they get eliminated?
No, I think they've won that fight.
They've won that fight.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's good.
How important is it for teams to be getting aggressive off the start and at least getting a couple kills on the board for themselves?
I think that is very team dependent.
Okay.
Some teams actually play a lot better when they start off hot. There is a team currently boosting into zone. This is NIP. If they die here, I'm going to be very, very sad. This team has, oh my god, this team has just not qualified for the split 2 major. And I think if they start off like really slow here, you might see a snowball effect of them continuing to lose confidence and stuff like that. So this is a team where they would prefer to have a hot start rather than a cold start here.
Yeah. I just got to say this, like from pro player to pro player, like seeing you like understand this situation, understand the plays that are happening right now, me being brand new to it, it's so insightful to me to just hear your take, your reaction to it, because, you know, if I was watching Siege, you would see something, be like, oh, you know, whatever, and then I'm like breaking it down like how you just, it's so cool just to see the pro player's perspective and mindset of just seeing something that looks so simple to me, but you see it as a far more in-depth play overall.
They've actually got the reset here.
How much do you think kind of goes into a game of Apex, a competitive game of Apex, in an environment like this or in ALGS that your layman wouldn't necessarily understand? Like, what are you guys doing differently or thinking about maybe that isn't necessarily something you think about in your regular pub games?
A big thing.
NIP just got eliminated, by the way.
Yeah,
Sad.
I'm sad, man. They're good friends of ours, and I want them to do well because I feel like they are a very good team, and they definitely haven't been playing like it recently, which is like, you know, always sad to see. As for your question, it is a case of knowing what the teams around you are doing, and I think that is something that all IGLs are like constantly having to think of. Falcons are hero fighting. This is an early fight for them to take.
Yeah, maybe put their foot on the gas, you know, early on in the piece. They're one of those teams that, you know, when they kind of get the ball rolling, they can really just like steamroll, can't they?
Yeah, it's not fun. Not fun at all.
When you're in these situations, especially as the IGL, and there's multiple teams fighting, when do you decide to engage and when do you decide to disengage?
You usually just like have to stare kill feed and just wait to see for trades.
Okay.
If the teams aren't trading, or if one team is like winning convincingly, like you can tell in the kill feed just by the numbers, like which teams just hard farming the other team. It might be like a 2-0, which is like, you know, 2 players are knocked on one team, 0 on the other.
And can that also bite you in the butt? For example, if, you know, you're looking at the kill feed and there's another fight going across the map, because you don't necessarily, I mean, I guess you do have an idea of who's around you, but obviously, let's say 2 fights are going across different parts of the map and you see kills going, but it's not actually in your area. Does that happen often, where it's then a mistake of what's actually happening versus what's not happening?
Well, let's test you for a second here, Walt. So we've got the map up right here. We see the first ring. Where's the God spot, or where are you going if you get the choice of literally anywhere at this point in time as the first rotator?
Okay, so I'll tell you one thing for certain. You cannot read a zone off first. I would need to see second zone to tell you exactly where I would play.
Okay.
You see everyone's like sort of bunched up around Barrow. I have a little bit of a cheat code here, which is I've seen Falcons at bottom Barrow. If I was to land next to them, I would just assume wherever they're playing is where it's pulling. Zero can read a zone like pretty much as good as anyone else can. So, yeah, I'd have to see second zone, but I would say it's gonna pull somewhere around where Falcons are playing.
And obviously with that in mind, for people that don't know at home, there are certain legends that can scan the next ring as well. So in the game, actually, the players probably have a little bit more information than what we did there with that map screen, because they would be able to inherently see that next ring anyway. We didn't quite get that information coming through just yet, so we're looking forward to seeing how that sort of plays out. But that's another sort of important factor that you guys are always aware of, right? Scanning the survey beacon, scanning the ring console. How important actually is that in this kind of environment?
Very, very important. Very, very, very important.
It's free info, right?
Yeah, it is. It is free info. So one thing that a big change happened was the legend classes. So being able, so who can scan beacons and who can scan like player scans, we call man scans.
Yep.
So what I do, for instance, is I tend to rotate like man scan to man scan to man scan, so that I'm constantly knowing where teams are and what teams are doing around me. That information is like extremely, extremely important, because last thing you want is to accidentally run into a team and have to take a fight that you're not exactly ready for. As for zone, I would say it's less important, because I feel like zone's mostly readable once you have second ring.
Can you infer from, let's say, the man scans, if that's what we want to go with as terminology, can you infer from that where the ring is going to be pulling? Because let's say you're out on the edge, you have no idea.
Yep.
You scan the survey beacon, which is what shows you the positions of enemy players for, I think it's 30 seconds, right? You see a bunch of guys clumped up on the southern side of the map. You probably put 2 and 2 together and go, ring might be pulling in that direction.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. If you don't have ring console at your POI, for instance, so what I would do if I didn't have the ring console at my POI was I would wait for, let's say, a minute to give teams enough time, especially the fast rotating teams, enough time to actually start moving towards where the zone's pulling. So I would just see the teams around me that have console, see where they're headed, see like where they're sort of trying to end up, and I would sort of take from that where the zone's roughly pulling.
When a player gets down, can any team steal that kill, or is it whoever downed that player?
Whoever downed that player.
Okay.
You used to be able to thirst people who had died to ring, or if the team that knocked him had died, had full died, you used to be able to like steal those kills, but you can't do that anymore. It's definitely just whoever knocked him gets the kill.
How much does the impact that it's made with obviously respawning now? I think you respawn with your old kit.
Yep.
Whereas before, like you had no shield, no nothing. Has that made a drastic change in terms of people being brought back?
Oh my god, Luminosity has just died. Sorry. It is a big change. Being able to come back in with guns and actually be able to play the game is...
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of times, especially with Crypto. So there's some APAC North players that play Crypto. You might see some endgames where teams are not expecting it, when it's like, there's too much going on and they've just respawned and someone's coming out of the sky is going to land on your head and you're not going to be expecting it. It is a very, very nice change, in my opinion, because originally when you would fight teams that were respawning, you'd know that he had nothing. You'd know it's free kills. You'd always push it. Now you're a bit more hesitant because they're coming in with, armor and guns.
So we're getting into the mid-game now, and, it's been, 3 teams taken out so far. It's been, I would say this has been a fairly middle-of-the-run game so far. Like, it hasn't been super quiet, hasn't been super aggressive. Is this, like, early in a competition, in any lobby, are you trying to take things a little bit slower as a team, or are you just sort of playing a natural game? Because I imagine every lobby plays out a little bit differently based on, first of all, where you're dropping. That's one big thing, but also which other teams are in the lobby, what their timings are like, how they're rotating. So is the first sort of 2-3 games kind of just trying to ease your way into the lobby?
Nah, for me it's definitely not. For some teams it might be. So, definitely with Empty, it was a case of he'd always just sort of do the same thing. But one thing I learned in regional finals when I had a disconnect was I don't like the idea that we have to sort of play for points or play more safe. So I would tend to try and start off hot, and we do tend to start off hot rather than start off slow, because I feel like it just is a snowball effect. I would rather take a fight first game for no reason, just to get like the vibes going.
That's, I was just about to ask that, of just getting warmed up for an initial gunfight, then, playing the circle the entire time or wherever that's going to rotate. Okay, I was literally just about to ask that question.
I obviously wouldn't do that if I had zone. If I have Godspot, I'm going to take Godspot. But if it's a case of zones across the map and I can just take a fight with a random team for no reason, I'll do it.
Can you explain what Godspot is, just for people at home?
Godspot is just the best spot in zone with like the highest chance of winning the game, with also like the highest chance of kill potential.
It's like very hard to be pushed in that position, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is a spot that tends to be almost unpushable.
All right, so we've got another ring pull here. It's gone south.
Yeah, okay. So if this is me, I haven't seen this zone for a while. It can pull sort of really far south, sort of where you're seeing like Gaming Gladiators, for instance. But I would not be shocked if this one also does pull back up, sort of towards Pioneers, sort of like on that top end of the zone. I just haven't seen a south zone like that for like a very long time. But if we have one, I would be, I'd be surprised.
I have a question. So when you're in these situations when the circle's getting tighter and tighter, what should your utility look like? Like if you're a player here, what should you be making priority in these situations?
For me, it's making sure that you're like holding your utility, you're not wasting it. So like all your abilities and stuff like that. But nades, I think a lot of teams don't understand how important it is to like save your nades. A lot of teams will just tend to throw nades and like be sort of reckless with it. Then they get to late game, and if they had 2-3 nades, they could have wiped a team for free. Could have got a team out of a spot for free. So it's just like, I would definitely say prioring nades and obviously ammo. Don't just shoot for no reason.
So what about for like shields or like med kits, anything like that?
I mean, shield, there's no sort of system to it. It's just like, obviously you just want to conserve as much as you can. As for health meds, you never really run out because you're never really taking like health damage.
Okay.
So it's just a case of, just like sort of preserving as much as you can.
Which I think that's important to know, that you don't want to be taking any health damage.
Yeah.
Like you were saying. Okay.
I mean, in an ideal world, obviously you can't guarantee it, but for the most part, yeah, if you're sort of taking your peaks correctly and that sort of
But
thing.
see, that's what will make the difference from the pro players, from the
For sure,
average,
for
that you
sure.
are focused on that part of it.
I mean, some of the mechanics of the game as well are just absolutely crazy. Like you watch the pro players, and first of all, raw aim, that's one thing that everybody can appreciate, but I think more importantly as well, Waltzy, is like the movement and that kind of thing as well is a really big factor in a game like Apex Legends. Maybe for you, a little bit more difficult, obviously being a controller player, but for the mouse and keyboard guys, things like those tap strafes, super glides, etc., are really, really interesting. And it's not something that you would be watching and you wouldn't even know what that is. You wouldn't even notice it, I would say 9 times out of 10 if you're just a first-time viewer of Apex Legends. But like that is a really big skill differential between some of the mouse and keyboard players.
Yeah, no, 100%. Timmy is among the top of movement players in the game, and I think no one would ever argue that. He's very much known for his mechanics, including his aim as well. Just honestly a freak talent. You have a lot of those in this lobby, if I'm honest, you have the likes of Zero, the entire CR roster, stuff like that. So you'll see it land. Actually, the full team that's just died, I would actually argue are some of the best MK players in the world. They just don't know what game they're playing.
Okay. That's Makers, the team from, I think they're from Thailand, right?
Yeah, very,
south.
very mechanically talented team. Don't know what game they're playing.
Is there any team that you have any beef with in these lobbies?
That's one of them.
Okay.
You get W-keyed by them a little bit.
No, they tried it. They're the team that will have to contest if they make finals.
I actually think there's a reasonable chance that they do. They've been at a fair few of these international events, not necessarily under the Makers name.
Yep.
Used to play as Tom Yum Kung, and they've had a fair bit of success domestically.
The last lane, I don't think they were they TYK the last lane? They might have been.
Might have been. I think they were prior to this season, TYK, and then prior to that, they were EXO.
Yep.
If you remember.
Yeah.
Do you change your lineup of Legends based off the map that you're playing on?
Yep. So at the moment we don't. So for World's Edge and Storm Point, we actually play the same comp. But for the novelty maps, that's what we call the 2 maps that are going to be fan voted. So we'll be playing a Pathfinder Fuse Bangalore versus the Banksia.
And then what would you be running if you were in this lobby right now?
Banksia Fuse.
Okay.
Can we touch on that a little bit, because we haven't actually had the chance to really talk about legend compositions all that much on our broadcast, but it's obviously important to have the Bangalore at the moment seems to be 100% pick rate. Yep. There's no doubt about that. You're going to have Bangalore in, but you're also going to get the likes of a ring scanner and a console scanner. Is that basically the idea?
Yep, exactly. So Fuse is, I would say, probably the second most picked character at the moment because he can scan console now. Yep. Originally, when he wasn't able to scan console, no one played him. But because they have added that, it has made him like a much better pick. GK actually doing well here makes me very happy with the Apex out team. Yeah, so Bang
Scanning
at the moment.
You mean scanning the
ring console?
The ring console.
Yeah. So the reason that Bang is so important is for your micro rotates, your ability to go from building to building, crossing spaces.
Can we explain to the viewers what the ring console does?
So the ring console is reveals the next zone. So it's literally just showing you on the map like where the next zone will be.
So for the people at home, you know, you normally in a battle royale will see the next zone, but you can actually see the next zone if you have this particular character. So it's kind of like a little bit OP, right? Like
that's super insane.
It just sounds like a hack really, but it's not. It's actually just in the game.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like it sounds a lot better than it is, because obviously even with that that information, it is still incredibly difficult to be able to predict the zone sort of to a T.
And the other thing is everybody has that as well.
Falcons
every team will be playing that.
Oh my god, Falcons are dying here.
Well, not if Hal clutches up. Oh!
Oh my god, Falcons have died.
Yeah, so what did they make? 6th?
No, 10th.
My eyes are really bad, as you can obviously tell.
10th with 3 kills, yeah.
Just let us know. We'll
we'll tell you.
relay that.
I mean, that's not the ideal start, but you know, you've got plenty of games still to play.
Yeah, we'll just have to see. I'm not too sure. I'm honestly, everyone has favorited these guys, and I would have as well after regional finals and how well they played. But leading up to this event, scrims, TDMs, stuff like that, they have been underperforming heavily. But I don't think anyone noticed.
I know you're talking about the Falcons.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think it's a storyline that kind of feeds upon itself though a little bit? Like you see people starting to say, oh, they're the best, and then everyone else starts saying, oh, they're the best because people are starting to say they're the best, and then it becomes like a self-fulfilling cycle in terms of that conversation.
Yep. I mean, 100%, but also at the same time, they are the best. So it's like,
sure.
I'm not going to sit here and say they're not. They're 3 players that have won. What are they? 3 of 11 players that have ever won a LAN?
Which I make an argument all the time of, you know, putting the best players together does not mean success.
No, I don't think so either.
By any means, because there's many different ideologies on how to play the game, how to function. So, I mean, that's for me when I hear about the Falcons and how successful that the players are individually, is that going to now translate into an actual overall team success?
Well, I would say it might. And it should, but I think obviously between Hal and Zero there's going to be a little bit of clashing, just because, you know, they both have he was an IGL, but I would say at the moment a big thing for them was I would almost argue complacency, but it's not from an aspect of they don't play the game. It's that they just they weren't giving it their best, is what I would say.
Okay.
Maybe is hubris a better word in that?
If I knew what it meant, it probably would be.
It's like when you're so good and you know that you're so good that you're like, we don't even really have to try.
Yeah, 100%.
That you know, we're just going to win anyway.
Yeah. No, that's exactly.
Guys, liquid down.
Yeah, we're down to the top 4.
Top 4.
So in this situation, what is your play? Like, what are you doing with your team here?
Well, if you're on the high ground, you're pretty happy.
If I'm Aurora, I'm flossing. I'm straight up doing the worm. Because they have the best spot in zone, and
this is God spot, right? This is what you're talking about.
This is what we were talking about before. This is God spot. So they have 6 boxes up here. So they have all the loot in the world. That they have their util still. You know, they've got the best spot in zone. The only thing that they can't do here is throw. You just have to not throw. That is it. If I'm GHS, if I'm GHS, what I'm doing here is I'm making sure that I have the space as close to the end zone as I can, because you're playing Watson. So later on, you're going to see them try and slam a gen as close as they can to the end zone, which should be quite easy because they actually do have a very good position here. The worst position is probably the team in the small building. If you see on the map there's a team in the building that has almost no zone to play. That team is probably going to be the first team to die, and if they're not, I'll be surprised.
Do you guys have mini callouts for certain areas on the map? Or is it kind of just you're just going off of what's in front of you, and they're in this building, they're in that?
Yeah, so in Siege you have, you guys have comms
there's different spots, locations and stuff like that, yeah.
It's really hard to do that in a BR because it's a big map and there's just so much. We do have nicknames for buildings and stuff like that, places that someone just come up with. So there's a place called Grandma's, which is just a random building that we've called Grandma's, and it's just stuck. And then we have, so here I would call this just like top barrow and bottom barrow, which is quite literally just the height building up this main tower of Barometer. Nags is a solo, they've made the seat. What'd I say about FaZe?
Yeah.
Yeah, they've actually done pretty well here.
Well,
got some points out of it.
Doesn't look like they're going to last too much longer.
This zone's not great for them though, so for them to get points out of it is really good.
Yeah.
Being that they are.
You said they would drop this.
There's that pylon.
Yep, there's the pylon that I was talking about. So that's them trying to take space in that next in that sort of small circle there, which they've done a good job of. They have taken a lot of damage here though. That's the only issue. The gen has been broken, which is not great. They're getting griefed actually by the solo. I don't know if we've spoken about griefing. Griefing is when someone will go out of their way to like make it
More difficult for you?
Yeah, make it difficult for you. So solo griefing you is always very frustrating.
Well, that solo does not exist anymore, so fade out in 4th.
Yeah, this should be an Aurora win. Like I said, all they have to do is just not throw. The other two teams should fight each other right now. And then they should just jump in and clean everything up.
That is exactly what they're going to be doing, so I think you've called it correctly.
Fish in a barrel.
And straight out into the zone as well. And
They're
punching him to death. That just shows you how dominant that win actually ends up being from Aurora.
Very, very good. This is a team, honestly, that I would put in a wild card category. I couldn't tell you how well they're going to do, how bad they're going to do.
Are they newer players, newer team?
They